With only 5 days left to file an appeal, which would take about 15 minutes, Chairman of the SEC, Gary Gensler, and his cronies, arguably one of the least competent and most corrupt agencies in the entire US government, have consistently taken the stance that they need to regulate through retroactive lawsuits rather than creating clear guidelines for crypto companies to operate under. Now, if you've been an XRP investor and holder for a while, this is not new news to you, but there's a lot of misinformation out there surrounding the appeal and exactly what the SEC is able to appeal, as well as how this will play out. We've also uncovered some interesting claims surrounding corruption over at the SEC involving one of their key leaders and directors of enforcement, who is now stepping down at the same time of the Ripple lawsuit appeal. It smells of conspiracy. So we'll be covering these new revelations, which could lead to some major twists in the upcoming months, as well as a new Ripple partnership with Mercado Bitcoin and what that means for XRP. We'll be covering some exciting updates from Swift, the global money transfer business, and how they're integrating tokenization as well as blockchain into their infrastructure, and how Monero is now teaming up with Ripple to bolster their case against the SEC and their unjust attacks. So if you're feeling blessed and bullish, comment 777, and if you're going to be the wealthiest person in your family tree, smash the subscribe button. We were just down to the wire with only 5 days left for the SEC to appeal, and as predicted earlier on the channel, it was highly likely that Gary Gensler and the SEC would file an appeal closer to the end of September, if not October, which would cause investors a lot of harm. The price action was looking good. The US Securities and Exchange Commission appealed a court decision ordering Ripple Labs to pay a $125 million civil penalty. And if Ripple was able to do that without an appeal, things would have been good to go. They would have been in the clear. There would be no more lawsuit. I think it would have given a lot of clarity for bigger institutions or players to step in and say, you know what, we're also going to move forward with Ripple and doing business and dealings. But at the end of the day, this just harms the average Ripple investor. And that clearly showed up in the price. From the day of the lawsuit, we're down about 17% at the low. Now, obviously, an appeal from the SEC was going to affect price at some point in time, and it did not only affect the price, but it caused the price to break below this upward trending line. That said, we also failed to break above the 64-cent range. You can see consistently we've seen resistance here, 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 and yet one more time here before the appeal and breakdown. Many could argue the SEC also has some technical analysts over at the SEC. They see some patterns like this. They see a slight breakdown or even pressure the markets to the downside before creating the news that causes panic and a sell-off. We really don't know. That's all conjecture. But at the end of the day, they always seem to time these types of things at a time where it would hurt the average XRP investor and the company Ripple itself. That said, I want to be clear, I don't believe this is truly a major breakdown. Although it is a breakdown from the trajectory or the trend, and now we have put in an equal low, it does look like we have quite a bit of support here at the 50-cent range. As you can see here, we had it once touch, twice touch. When we actually broke down below the range, we saw a little bit of resistance, only to see a break above the range and then support once, twice, and now 3 times. So that said, I do believe if you were to remove this line right here, the trading range is now 64 cents down to about 50 cents. Anything at the lower portion of this range, I still believe is a good time to accumulate into an end of the year bull market. We are currently at the very beginning of October. And if you were looking at last September and October, things didn't really start to take off until the 20th or the 24th of October, which means markets likely still have time, and any dip is now a dip buying opportunity or a zone for accumulation. Now, when you look at futures and the open interest on XRP, it's really quite interesting. things. So right here we have that break above the 65-cent range, 64-cent range, only to see the market sell right back off to the 50-cent range. Again, we're in the range that we just mentioned. But what I'm really looking at is for spikes in liquidations. In other words, it's a point in time where people were definitely wrong and their entire position was liquidated, which is kind of like a reset in the market. It's actually very healthy for markets to go through this. And as you can see right here on this one candle from 57 cents down to 53 cents, a lot of folks didn't believe we were going to break that low. And when it did, a lot of long positions were liquidated over at Binance to the tune of $4 million. So whenever you see a spike in liquidations like this, that's a good time to say, you know what, a lot of folks are out of the market, but because there's a big amount of volume, the market might continue to move in that direction, but it's likely not going to experience another major spike of liquidations like this, unless, of course, there's some sort of a major event or a black swan, you name it. Now, on that note, we saw the price continue to drop for a bit before climbing in this range right here, okay, from about 51 cents, which is the bottom of the range we just mentioned, up to about 52, 53 cents. This isn't really a major retrace, but the price is up, while at the same time, open interest is actually continuing to decline. And so when you see price go up and open interest decline, it means shorts are starting to close, which likely leads me to believe the price is going to start climbing a bit, and we'll figure out where it starts climbing back up to, but it's highly likely, if you just do a bit of technical analysis, it's going to go back to 55 to like 57 cents. And this would make complete sense, right? If I take a line and toss it at like 56 to 57 cents, you can see this is basically the midline of this entire range. So we had a lot of liquidations here, break to what seems to be a relative support, and it's highly likely with this move, we're going to get some sort of a bounce or a retrace right back up to the 57-cent range. Now let's dive into the news, and then we'll continue to cover XRP a bit more. So right now there is an article that came out from Cointelegraph basically explaining just how bullish it is that banks are now going to trial token transactions on the Swift network in 2025. There has been a lot of conjecture and a lot of folks online that assume that Swift and Ripple at some point are partnered, or that Swift is going to have to use Ripple technology. I do believe once they are in the clear, and that is likely now to be at the end of 2025, that Swift is somehow going to find a way to integrate Ripple technology into their platform. And if that were the case, this would be huge, considering Ripple is one of the largest global money transfer companies in the world, and we're talking to the tune of quadrillions per year in the amount of money that they move. However, they are starting live blockchain trials which will connect central and private banks, allowing real money digital asset transfers and advancing institutional blockchain adoption. Even if Ripple, for example, did not partner with Swift, at the end of the day, as they are the big player in the room and they get more companies and banks to adopt blockchain, they are going to be far more comfortable using Ripple technology in the future as well. So it actually makes the job and business for XRP and Ripple a hell of a lot easier, because you have a big player who already has partnerships at a very major scale, introducing them to blockchain, making them comfortable with blockchain, and ultimately they might use a better service like Ripple in the future. Now, let's cover the SEC appeal, as there might be misinformation online, and so you have a better understanding of what's actually going on. Just so we're clear, they're not appealing the fact that XRP is not a security. That's already well established and very clear. In other words, the token itself, not a security. However, what they are likely appealing is the fact that they did sell XRP to institutional investors. That said, the institutional investors themselves were never actually promised to make money, and they never themselves actually lost money. But because they did this without proper legal clarity, or I would say approval from the SEC is not really happy about it. Then the judge went ahead and said, okay, because this was the case, we're going to fine you $125 million, to which it's likely the SEC said, we're not happy with that ruling. We think it is a major point of contention. We want the judge probably to increase the fine, or just to continue to litigate them into the ground. To which Brad Garlinghouse himself said, "We'll fight in court for as long as we need to." Let's be clear, XRP's status as a non-security is the law of the land today, and that does not change even in the face of this misguided and infuriating appeal. Then a pro-XRP and crypto lawyer, Jeremy Hogan, shared his thoughts and basically stated a few very key points. The first one, obviously, is the fact that XRP is not a security. So even if the SEC were to win on appeal, it's very likely it's just a matter of money. The first thing that he really mentioned that I found interesting, however, was the fact that it would be a big mistake by the SEC, yet that's what they continue to do, because they are appealing the programmatic sales ruling, and if it wins, it will get more money from Ripple and have protected no one. Ripple will raise its blue sky law issue, and if it wins, the SEC's ability to regulate the entire crypto space is essentially destroyed. So in other words, this seems to be a lose-lose for the SEC, and they probably know this. However, they're saying, screw it, we're going to double down anyways, and it could be political, there could be corruption, we're not too sure yet, but I'm going to share with you some really interesting news surrounding corruption here shortly. However, the only hope for this all being over soon is if there's new leadership at the SEC. As Trump had mentioned, he will fire Gary Gensler day one, and I think he knows that. Now, what exactly are blue sky laws? Well, they are laws that vary state to state, but basically they give information at the level of the company, and you and I, or investors, have a wealth of verifiable information on which to base our own judgment and investment decisions. So that's probably going to be the case that they argue under, saying everyone had access to information, we weren't hiding anything, people went and bought it themselves, so we weren't selling unregistered securities, and this will really harm the SEC's ability to regulate crypto. Now, in a statement from the chief legal officer, Stuart Alderoty, over at Ripple, he actually made a third point, which we found really, really interesting. He said, is it a coincidence that the SEC's enforcement director, who we are going to cover here in a second, announced his resignation an hour before the appeal happened? And then in another post, or a reply from Brad Garlinghouse, he says, certainly feels like there's something more behind this than what is readily apparent. The truth and the corruption always come to light eventually. Now, what exactly are they talking about? Well, there is an enforcement officer by the name of Gurbir S. Grewal, who is the director of the Division of Enforcement. He will depart the agency effective October 11th. However, he announced his resignation literally an hour before the appeal. And here is the statement from Gary Gensler himself. Now, this is a man who has a long track record in history over at the SEC as their top cop, who netted the agency more than $20 billion. And it wasn't just normal companies, they attacked a stupid amount of crypto companies. More than 100 of those actions that he was involved in directly targeted firms in the crypto space, including Coinbase and Binance. Dozens of lower profile actions in the crypto arena involved allegations of unregistered securities. And that was always the statement that they made until the Binance case, where they're like, well, you know what? Crypto asset securities is just a term we used. It wasn't actually meant to be a legal matter. And ultimately, we were wrong about that. So now it sounds like they're bouncing back and forth, but I found or unearthed some really interesting information surrounding this Grewal character, like the fact that back in 2023, he was already under investigation for corruption. And this investigation was due to the fact that there were allegations of elected officials pressuring the state attorney general's office to influence the outcome of a prosecution. And somehow this man was at the center of it. So yes, right now something really smells fishy, and it seems like he's trying to cover his ass before things get worse, considering he already knew they've lost the SEC Ripple case. Now, there is so much injustice in the crypto communities and amongst different companies that even a major player in the privacy sector, Monero, has allied with Ripple in the XRP SEC case. And in a statement from them, they said the Monerix team remains fully committed to becoming a leading Web3 bank despite the SEC's ongoing appeal, which won't have any effect on their roadmap. We believe in the power of decentralization, especially as we build on XRPL. Our vision of the future of finance is blank, blank, blank. However, they now have an alliance with Ripple and will likely be doubling down with their connections and potentially even tossing a bit of cheddar or money into the whole situation to really help Ripple win, because a win for Ripple is a win for the entire crypto industry. Lastly, Mercado, Bitcoin, and Ripple are set to partner to launch cross-border payments in Brazil. And by the way, this is the leading crypto exchange in Brazil, which is a very large country, the largest country down in South America. Now, finally, this is a big deal, and they just announced it October 3rd that they are going to be enabling cross-border payments with Mercado Bitcoin, which will be their very first customer in Brazil to utilize Ripple's managed end-to-end payments solution, which enables its businesses to easily leverage blockchain for faster, cheaper, more efficient cross-border payments in a secure manners. And this is, by the way, is big because customers can now move funds across the globe 24/7, 365, and settle payments in a matter of minutes, which, yes, is a better technology than currently the one that Swift offers. And we're talking they're doing it to the tune of quadrillions of dollars. So again, as Swift onboards more key players and as Ripple proves that it can accomplish the same job faster, more effectively, more efficiently, and cheaper, they're ultimately going to reduce time and friction to make moving value dramatically more efficient. This is perfect, guys. This is all going to work out to the benefit of Ripple and arguably the token XRP as they introduce their stablecoin, and as more players and key institutions are onboarded, things are looking hot for the XRP token. Yes, even with that bit of a sell-off, things are going to look a lot better soon. So that said, I do believe it's likely we bounce at least to 56, 57 cents. And when you look at the total amount of liquidations here, it was big enough that, yes, although the price dropped a little bit more, a lot of shorts are getting closed. And then you start to see wicks from a 4-hour time frame. If you can come down to the hourly time frame, you can see that there's a decent amount of support right here. So coming into the 4-hour time frame, these wicks are indicative of the fact that there's a lot of buyers in these ranges here. Okay, so we have this bullish engulfing candle, a follow-through candle with a long wick, a failed wick right here on the sell-off. So you can see there was a bit of sell pressure right here, obviously with the red candle. However, there was no wick to the downside. And then on the fourth 4-hour candle with a sell-off down below this range low right here, we saw another wick. So buyers seem to be in control at the ranges of 50 cents all the way up to 52 cents. Again, I'm pretty confident that we're going to hit the 57 cent range, unless of course we get some sort of a major event or more major negative news. That said, it remains to be seen what really happens here, but right now this is a strong range, again from 64 cents down to 50 cents. We're at the bottom, so even if you wanted to play this for a small swing, I think it'd be pretty easy. However, a break above 64 cents would easily take us to 74 cents, and that is really the range to beat right now, considering that not only is it a confluence point right here at 74 cents among the horizontal support and resistance, but it's also a confluence point among a 6.5 year downward trending triangle. So a break above 74 cents will likely take us to at least our previous all-time high of $3.30, if not higher. So this looks like a great dip buying opportunity. And yes, I am still very bullish through the end of the year, as this sell-off really wasn't that big. If anything, I think it was a great time to load up. So if you are an XRP holder or plan to hold XRP through the end of the year, I think one of the best things you can do is click the link down in the bio or the description below, or even the first pinned post in the comments. Go to bullrunners.com/CryptoLand to discover how to earn more crypto in less than 10 minutes with the #1 play to earn XRP game. In other words, you put your XRP to work. It not only reduces your volatility if we see a little bit more downside, which I don't think we're going to see too much more downside. And on the flip side, it allows you to stack up or compound on your XRP bags into an end of the year bull run. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain by simply checking it out. You do it in 3 simple steps. Get an XRP wallet, you get your game pieces, you play the game to earn crypto, and the crypto is directly convertible for XRP. Highly recommend you watch all of the videos beforehand so you kind of have a good understanding of how this looks and how it works. We explain it very thoroughly in these videos, so it's really not that difficult for you to get into, but ultimately I want you to be educated. I want you to make the best possible decision for you, your family, your future, and I think, again, just checking it out, you have nothing to lose. So go to bullrunners.com /cryptoland to check it out. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. And if you haven't already, subscribe, like the video, helps us out. We'll see you next time.